I'm Anna, the Yarn Randomizer, and this is lucky episode 13. And it is December 15th today. Yes, December 15th. I am in the process of, let me adjust. I gotta make sure my little heater doesn't come on here. There we go. So almost all my Christmas gifts are done, and so I've got one more that's still in process, and I'm trying to get everything mailed out. We'll see if I get the last one on time, but I'll show you that later. But for the preliminaries, you can find me on Instagram as original.annasender and on Ravelry as the Yarn Randomizer, and you can find all those links down below to all my information. And a real quick why randomizer is because I assign random numbers to my stash, and for most of my projects I pick them using the random numbers. I actually have my husband pull random numbers from the container to determine what I need to work with out of my stash. And I'll talk in more detail later about how that resets at the beginning of each year and how I do that. And then finally, if you enjoy this or like this, please subscribe and like and stuff. And so I kind of joke around, see if I get up to a whopping 500 subscribers. So we'll see. All right, what I'm wearing, and putting my hands all over the mic. So what I'm wearing is the hitchhiker shawl, and I've made this, I think you'll see it in my earlier episodes, and this is one of the most popular shawls, I think, on Ravelry, and it's such a snap to knit. And this is made with, I believe it's Black Cat Fiber's Eye of Sauron. And so it's one that I really liked. I originally thought of making socks with it, but I thought with the variegation that's in it and stuff, I thought it would make a much better hitchhiker, which I think it did. And I actually knit it on a larger needle than I did before with the other hitchhikers I've made, and I actually like the results much better. It's much softer and came out really nice. And I was still able to get all 42 teeth, but I think that was because the skein was a little bit more, I think it was closer to 110 grams than 100, so I kind of lucked out a little bit. But, so that's what I'm wearing, and, as you see, we're getting right to it. Oh, finished objects. I have to pause here from it so I can go get one of those finished objects. All right, I'm back. I've got, so for the two finished objects today, they're both Christmas presents for this year, and the first one is the Dudester scarf, and this is a scarf by Jana Pahota. I'm not sure if that's the right way to pronounce that. But I've made this scarf a few times before. Now, this yarn's pretty busy for the texture pattern, but you can see basically it's got 2 inner bars and 2 outer areas of garter stitch, and then it's got this kind of broken rib pattern in the other areas, where it's 2 rows of ribbing and 2 rows of garter in that area, and it produces a very nice balanced yarn. There's piece. There's no curling going on. And one of my favorite things about, this is the way I work the pattern. I basically I think it's knit through the back of the loop on the last stitch, and on the beginning of the next stitch I slip the stitch with the yarn in front. And so the result is you get this very nice kind of flat edge. And I think I've got a video. See, I'm trying to think. I've had to fix the edge of this before, and I've got a video where I fix the edge of a shawl or something where I do that. But it's easy if you make a mistake on the edge. It's easy to fix an edge like this too. But I'd encourage you to check out the video. But it's actually, you don't have to live with mistakes on the edge any more than you have to in the middle of it. But it turned out so nice. So it's the things I like about this pattern is, as written, it's a little wider than a regular scarf. I like that. And this is for my husband to wear with his tweed jacket. And then the other thing that I did was I wanted to make, so there's the cast on. I'm going to have a difficult time telling which edge was the cast on and which one was the bind off, because I did the bind off in such a way that it looks identical to the I did the long tail cast on the cast on edge, and then I did this, it's kind of a sewn bind off. So here's one edge, and you can see that set of stitches that you usually see at the beginning of a long tail cast on, and you can see that it looks exactly the same on here as well. It's more apparent where you can see the white and colors versus the black. But I was really happy to finally get the two edges of this scarf to meet completely. Now the thing I like about it, with the shorter length, I think it looks better with my husband's coat, and then on top of that you can sort of fold it in half when you wear it, and sort of up like that. So it's one I've made a few times before. I will stick a picture in somewhere of one that I made for my middle son maybe a couple of years ago, where you can see the texture pattern much more clearly because I did it in a solid color. But yeah, so that's my husband's knitting for the year, for Christmas done. And I had to have it tucked away right now in a box under the tree, but it's one that's just got a little bit of tape barely holding it closed. My husband and I have a tradition of not wrapping presents. And it's just kind of a, it just felt like when we were going to all the work to wrap presents and then unwrap them, and it felt like we were kind of wasting a lot of stuff. And so our practice now is to basically give our presents to each other for Christmas or for birthdays and stuff in how they showed up, or how they're, packaged and that kind of stuff. So right now under the tree you basically see, a variety of shipping boxes, and our tree is only about this big. So not under the tree. The tree's on a table. Gifts are down below. But the gifts are all in there, basically what they were shipped in, or in a, basically some container they were brought home in and stuff, so that we kind of minimize the amount of waste that we have when we're opening presents. So I think that was something we decided to do, I think a couple of years ago, that we started. But yeah, so I've got a little box that I'm reusing that I have this tucked away in. And so it's a tape that was really easy to take off so I could show it to you. But yeah, it's really nice. And this is the fiber seed sprout worsted that I'm using with this. I really like their worsted yarn. It's actually, I think 113, or it might be more than that. Let's see how many grams per, 135 grams per skein, and it's 250 yards. And so you get a lot to work with, and I used as much of it as I could possibly use in this scarf. Made it as long as it could be made with this 2 skeins of their yarn. So there's that one. So that's ready for my husband. And then, let's see, the next thing is, I've put a couple pictures of it on my Instagram, but I've been working on these brio clavas. Yeah, brio clavas, I believe is what the name. So Stephen West came out with this brio clava pattern, and I really liked it as soon as I saw it. And so I decided, my stepson and his wife have decided to kind of stay long-term in near Minneapolis, Minnesota. A little chilly up there. And so I know they've appreciated the knit hats before, and I thought to kind of honor their going through and purchasing a house, I would make them each a brio clava. And so here's the first one. Now I still have to weave in an end or two here, but otherwise it's done. Now this one is knit. I used a sock yarn double from Long Dog yarn, and the other color in here is a silk mohair from Les Garçons in pastel, what's called Pastel Jimmy. And so I think the two colors, because there are little bits of pink in this Casada colorway from Long Dog, I think the pink absolutely matches this pink in the mohair. I think it turned out really nice. And it'd be hard to, this ends up being such a nice squishy headpiece, and it fits really well. I still haven't blocked it, which I should probably do this weekend if I hope to have any chance of getting it out in time. But I just really love how it turned out. Now you can see on the inside, you can see even more of the pastel Jimmy color. And I pretty much made it exactly as the pattern specified, except for one part. So I actually did just a long tail cast on at the bottom, did the ribbing here, did the brioche here, and you can see he's got some decreases here to shape the kind of face, the opening a little bit. But up at the top, what it called for was casting off on each side and then just working this central bit of stitches up to the appropriate length and then sewing together the edge of that band that you work up to the cast off edge. And I kind of decided, I have made a helmet before, and I can stick up a picture of that up there, and it's from an old pattern, but I made it for my husband one year, and I can't even remember how that original pattern worked. It also might have cast off and sewn up a seam in this area. But effectively, if I turn this over, this is basically sort of the heel of a sock, but maybe hold it like this instead. Let's say if you were working a toe-up sock and you think of this part as being the heel flap, well then what you can do is you can construct this just like heel flap, doing reducing stitches along this edge to consume the stitches on this side and that side. Now, since it's brioche and it's not some dense slip stitched area of a heel flap, I had to work out how to consume the right amount of stitches proportionally to how many rows this was supposed to be knit. And I write all those details in my pattern, but I was basically decreasing at the beginning and end of each row. Now sometimes that involved moving over a stitch to work with to do the reduction and stuff, but I always did it in such a way that you would have this ridge along the edge of the center flap going over, consuming the stitches along the top edge of that kind of those open stitches there. And so I actually think it turned out very well. The only problem it has was when I was first doing it, and I think you can kind of see it here, I was originally being too loose with part of it, and I kind of snugged that up later on. And I'll probably, after I block it, I'll kind of tidy that up a little bit. But otherwise, if I'd done, which next time I'll be consistent about it and do it this way, and it was just involved kind of snugging up the working yarn a little more carefully. I think it turned out really well. And so I'm really happy with that. And it's just really squishy. It feels really great. Oh, excuse me. It feels like something you could wear and then like pull a hood over to really stay warm inside, you know, a sweatshirt or anything like that, or a coat. And so I'm hoping they'll really like it. So this is the one for her, for my stepdaughter, or not stepdaughter, what would it be? The wife of my stepson, my stepdaughter-in-law, maybe. But yeah, I think it turned out great. I just love the colors, how they turned out. Now, those are my two finished pieces, although I still have some ends to weave in. I sort of consider a piece done once it's off the needles. That's probably cheating a little bit, but that's okay. That's my rules. Now, let me bring up my notes again. So that's all the finished objects. So I finished those two objects, and I'm working on finishing another, and I'll show that here in just a second. But basically, while I've been trying to do this Christmas knitting, for the most part, everything else has been sort of on hold. So I do have progress to show, so we'll go over that now. So I've got a few things I'm still working on. So I am working on another one of these brio clavas for my stepson. Now in this case, I am using a DK from Dye Yarns called Mini DK, and in the color Garnet, and then I'm using silk mohair from Drops, and I'm using it double. The two on the previous one I was using the silk mohair and the sock yarn doubled. On this one I'm using the DK as is, but I'm still doubling the mohair. And so I've been making good progress on this, and I'm really happy with the way this color combination has come up. Just lovely. And so that one, I think I'll be able to finish it before the end of the weekend, and we'll see if mailing it out on Monday will do the trick. We'll find out. But yeah, it's a really fun pattern to knit. If you're comfortable with brioche, it's fine. There are brioche reductions, but I didn't find them difficult or complicated to do. And the main thing was to try to remember when I was supposed to do them. And on the previous one, I had to do a few fixes related to the brioche, but on this one, I've been kind of zipping through it pretty easily. So yeah, it's a great headpiece. It fits really great. It feels really great stuff, and I have some secret plans about making one for myself and one for my husband as well. So I'm really happy with that. Now the next thing, oh yes, so you see there's a couple of the items I have to show are kind of hanging back here. All right, so I'm in the middle of working on the November month of the Jimmy Beans Wool annual shawl. Now up through this year, it was a year long and you'd get 80 yards of yarn a month. They're changing it next year. I think it's going to go over 6 months, and I think you get about twice as much yarn. Don't hold me to that. But it's going to take place over a shorter period of time. But right now you can see the latest color is kind of this darker color that has some kind of olive colors in there and some grays and black. And you can see it's just overall it's darkening up the color of the shawl. And what I've been doing to keep up on this is, since the 1st of the month, 1st of December, I'm basically just doing 2 rows a day. And that lets me stay caught up on this, because by doing 2 rows a day, and there are 38 rows total, I will be done with November's section before the December yarn arrives. And that'll be the last month. So I think it's come out pretty generously sized. Let's see if I can hold that whole thing up. Yeah. And that will block out a bit. So yeah, it goes from these yellows through pinks, and now we're getting more grays, and it's getting darker. I'm really kind of enjoying it. It's a straightforward knit with a traveling stitch and just stockinette and reverse stockinette textures. And it's kind of a relaxing one this year. Last year was pretty intense. But this year has been pretty straightforward. And so I've been kind of enjoying it as a break from some of the other stuff that I'm working on. So that one is kind of caught up, just about caught up, and it's going to land on time. Probably when I get the last skein, I'm going to power through it to finish it off. But that's it. And just, actually, should mention, the bag that I keep it in is a Stitching Plaza, I believe, bag. And I love this license plate bag that I use. Now, I should have shown my bag that I'm using for my brio clava that I'm working on, and I will show that really quick here. Let's see, let's hang this back up. Oh, the latest color, this November colorway on the annual shawl, just really quick, there it is. It is called Piri Toki, is the name of the November color. So yeah, so it's turning out really nice. Now, let's see, let's get out this one. Oh, and the bag. Again, hopping back. This is the bag that I'm using with my Brioclava thing. It's about the right size for a couple of skein project. Does it have inner pockets? I don't think it has any inner pockets, but it's a nice padded bag. It's got this nice canvas hold, and it's got these drawstrings with these big tassels on them. And I've always kind of liked it, and it's got this Nightmare Before Christmas theme. I think it was a Halloween bag that was for sale. And this place, I think I have it in my notes. Oh yeah, the Crazy Skein Co. And so that's a local bag maker. And so I really enjoy it. It's a well-made bag. It's actually got pockets on the outside, on one side. And it's been one of these bags that I tend to like to use just because it's just got such a nice padded feel to it, sturdiness. I love bags that have a little bit of kind of oomph to them. All right, so that's that. Now, so we did the Brioclava, the Jimmy Beans shawl, and then next, oh yeah, before this, I think it might be hiding out somewhere. Let's see. Oh, there it is. Just a second. All right. Pull this up. All right, so the next thing that I am working on, and I basically have been carrying this around and working on it when I need something to work on, if I'm out waiting in line somewhere or that kind of thing. I don't want to take the brioche, and the shawl is just too big kind of to manage in line. So it's been my Van Dyke socks that have been traveling along with me to be worked on. And here I am mid-row. But I'm basically making the second one to match the first one identically. And so I'm about a quarter of the way through the sock. And these will really pick up steam once I finish the next Christmas, the last Brioclava. But I've been enjoying those. Let me see, do I have the one that's complete? Yep, I have it inside out here. You turn it right side out. And these are socks so homely, only the knitter who made them could love them. So these are just using up as many scraps as possible from my stash of Cascade 220 with a little bit of other stuff thrown in as well. So there it is. And these are really nice because they are socks made using worsted weight yarn on small needles. So the original pattern I think calls for size 2.5 needles. I'm using 3. And so you get a really dense sock that's perfect for wearing around the house, or I think it works really well in a boot as well. And so the pattern also, the original pattern has lace here on the top part, which turns out really nice. But in this case, I just wanted to knit it as a plain vanilla sock. And it's got a Flegel heel, which is a really nice heel that gives you a gusset. So it gives you that extra space for this part of your foot, the instep. But it's a very simple short row construction that is really easy to do. I really recommend the Flegel heel because it's kind of that balance between doing a heel flap and gusset and doing a short row heel. These are all short rows, but the thing I like about it is it looks the same on each side, and it just produces a really nice result. So I really recommend the pattern. It's from Wendy Johnson's, I think, Socks from the Toe Up is the book. And I've knit a few different, I think at least 2 or 3 pairs out of that book, and I plan to do more as well. So that's the Van Dyke socks. Now, okay, yes, the last one, the last work in progress I'm going to talk about this is intended as a Christmas present for my son's cats. But my joke is cats don't know what day it is, and so if this ends up shipping off a little late, I'm okay with that, and I think the cats will be okay with that too. So this is my little cat stuffy. and you can see I've finished the 2 little legs on it. And you can see how I bind together the fabric at those points so it gives it some kind of movement there. It's movable. It's filled with catnip here in the middle. And then I've picked up the first arm off of one side, so I'm going to finish that. Do the other arm, and then I'll do a little tail as well, and then I'll embroider on a little cat face, as well as I'm going to sew down these corners for ears and everything, so it should turn out pretty nice. And this is just a self-drafted pattern. If you go to the project, I've got it all. I've got a sketch of what it's intended to look like, and I've got a spreadsheet link there of kind of the how many stitches to cast on and that kind of stuff. And I have a video about how I bind the front and back of a tube like this together to kind of seal off and make a seam, this kind of movable seam like this and stuff. So I think they'll like it. My ulterior motive here with making this was when I visited them last year around Christmas time, I brought an old sock full of catnip. That's the usual kind of toy I like to give to cats, and they usually go bonkers over it. Well, in this case I did that, but what was funny about it was the cats would come out and they would lay down on top of it and just kind of cuddle on it. And so I thought it would be really funny to make a cat-shaped toy that was filled with catnip that they would do the same thing to. I figured there'd be some nice photographic opportunities there. So we'll see if it works out that way. I'm going to be visiting my sons in March when I go to the there's a retreat there done by I'm trying to think, Hill Country Weavers that I'll be going to. So maybe I'll save it and drop it off then, or mail it sooner, but I will definitely get a photo of the cats playing with this. And so that's it for my works in progress. All right. So there were a couple of other things I wanted to cover. Oh, dropped my yarn there. Okay, so for one thing, this is 2 weeks. This is December 15th. I wanted to make sure to hop on 2 weeks after the last time I recorded, so I don't have an hour of stuff to talk about. I like to keep these a little shorter than an hour. And then also we've got so I'm trying to get into that habit. The other thing is, because we're closing in on the end of the year, I wanted to talk about a couple of knitting plans, and I'll talk about how I'm going to reboot doing the yarn randomizer. So now, first of all, knitting plans. Now I'm getting a little warm, so I'm going to take this off. Put that over there. Knitting plans. So, I have plans for 2 things that are outside the yarn randomizer. One is I have a plan for a Christmas Eve cast on, and that is using I had gotten a Christmas Eve cast on box from Hypnotic Yarn. And so their box was really neat. I'll put in a picture of it, and I will confess right now that I've already opened that box and I've got things ready for doing a cast on. But the idea I'm not going to show it yet because it would be a spoiler for folks, and I'll definitely show it though. I'll be recording again a little bit after Christmas, and I'll show what that yarn looks like and what the contents of the box are and everything. But the neat thing about the Christmas cast-on box from Hypnotic Yarn was you got to pick how much. So it was going to be a single, like a kind of one kind of dye style of color and stuff. It was going to be a single color, and I'm not saying it was a solid color. It could be variegated, could be whatever. I'm not saying what it is. I'm just saying that it wasn't multiple different color skeins of yarns, just a single color, and you could choose to get 1 to 10 skeins of that yarn as part of your Christmas Eve cast on. And so what I decided was that I would get 2, and I would do a ranunculus. So this would be my second ranunculus, and so I've been looking forward to doing another one. And so I'll use this yarn paired with a mohair and make a ranunculus and see how that turns out. So I'll be excited to show that for next time, because I think I should have some good progress on it. Let's see, in 2 weeks it will be the 29th, so that'll be a few days after Christmas, so there should be some good progress to show then. So that's one of my very planned cast-ons, and I was taking advantage of the Hypnotic Yarns Christmas Eve cast-on box to do that. Let's see, and it'll be using, yeah, so when I knit the ranunculus, I use size 10 and 10.5. So one of the things to know, I'm not sure how much of the sound you can hear, but there is a field of corn that is across the street from me that's being harvested right now. So we'll see how much noise that makes as they're going through. Okay, so now, so that's my Christmas Eve cast on. Now, the other thing I want to do is I decided I want to knit, oh boy, I think I will pause here for a moment. Let's see, okay. Looks like they have to go empty the combine right now, so hopefully I can squeeze in the rest of this pretty quick. All right, so the next planned project is going to be Slipstravaganza Blanket by Stephen West. Now, I think I had shown the colors that I was going to use for that in a previous episode, but my plan was that I wanted to try to see what's going on there. I was going to I was planning to make it out over the entire course of the year. Now, the thing that I did, which is kind of a crazy thing, and I'm pausing here for a moment, I thought I put my phone on airplane mode, and for some reason I just saw a message come through, so I'm hoping that doesn't mess with my microphone or anything. But, so, back to it. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to knit that blanket over the entire course of the year. So to do that, I kind of needed to know how many stitches were in the entire project. Well, I made a spreadsheet and went through the entire pattern and worked out an entire spreadsheet list, every row in that pattern and how many stitches is in it. And I totaled that up and I divided it over 366 days for the entire year. And then I set some goals along the pattern for those rows for how much stitches I wanted to do per day. Now it came out to just to say this, 537 or 538 stitches a day. Now, to get some perspective on that, that would just be like 8 to 9 rows of a sock. And so that seemed really doable. So to me, it's like I just have that goal, do that many stitches per day, and then get that thing done over the course of the entire year. Now, it's a big blanket, and my idea is to put it in the guest room. And I think the combine is coming back. Maybe? Oh, I don't know. I'm going to have to listen to this and see how it goes. But, okay. But yeah, so that's my goal, is to make this over the course of the year. And I'll share the spreadsheet, and I will, and you'll see my goals and how I lined everything up on that. So that I will be kicking off at the beginning of the year. If you're masochistic enough to join me in that process, I'd be happy to have other folks join me in working on that enormous blanket. But yeah, so those are my 2 knitting plans, concrete knitting plans, aside from doing the yarn randomizer. Now, let's see, the only other stuff I have to go over is I do have an acquisition. So my husband, as I mentioned on a previous podcast, had gone on one of his yarn trips, and he'd picked up this lovely yarn for me from a place called Maggie Valley Yarn Shop. And so this is Hand Dyed Diva. This is their color for that yarn shop. And what I wanted to do was, do combine this with a mohair and potentially make another sweater, either a love note or something similar to that. So what happened was there were some deals from Hypnotic Yarns. They were having a free giveaway of a small item each day if you did an order. Well, on one of those days, I decided to go ahead. I found a mohair yarn that I really liked that I thought would go with this, and I ordered that, and I got a couple other things to go with it. But first and foremost, here is the mohair I'm going to combine with this yarn, and I think they go together really well. This mohair kind of matches the lighter colors in that yarn, and so I'm really looking forward to that. So that's going to go into the pool of yarns that can get picked by my randomizer. Now, additionally, I picked up a little wooden pinch bowl, and so you can see I've got some light bulb stitch markers in there, and so that's what I'm using that for. I really like that little bowl. I also picked up some pomegranate bath bombs. So I have not used a bath bomb before, but I decided I would try it, and they smell really nice. And the little giveaway item for the day was an O-Snap, one of these mesh bags from O-Snap. And so, and you can see it's got Yarnable. It originally came, I think, in a Yarnable monthly mailing, and I highly recommend her Yarnable monthly mailing. Has all kinds of great goodies in it each month, and her colorways and stuff are always really beautiful. You should really take a look at those, and I think you can see previews to see if you're going to like the color for the month, if you really need to see it ahead of time and that kind of stuff. But the quality of the additional items in there and the quality of the yarn is really lovely. So I highly recommend their kind of subscription. So it's Hypnotic Yarns, and it's Yarnable is their monthly subscription. Now, so that was what I picked up from there. I think I've got enough mohair. Maybe I don't, but I'm getting so much mohair. Additionally, I have a Jimmy Beans wool. You're going to hear some crinkling here. I have a Jimmy Beans wool advent calendar, and it was for making ornaments again this year. And I just decided, I had made ornaments last year, and I decided I didn't want to do that this year. So what I have been doing is I have been accumulating all the yarn coming out of my advent calendar. And my plan is to pick a shawl pattern to use with this yarn. And so once I pick something out, I'll arrange it and figure out what order I'm going to use it in. But I want to try to use every bit of it in a shawl. So basically I'm saving that up, and that also will go into the pool of my stash and be available as a yarn randomizer pick. All right, so those are my acquisitions. And now, so what happens with the yarn randomizer once we get to the end of the year? So basically the way I do it is for any items that are in my queue for the yarn randomizer that haven't been started when I hit midnight at the end of the year, those get deleted off of the queue. They come off of the queue and they go back in the pool. They're back in the stash. And so that's what'll happen to those. Now, I'm really motivated to start a couple of the items that are in my queue right now. One is the Ravello sweater that I have there, and another one is a pair of mitts that I had picked out for, I think, my 29th yarn randomizer pick. And so I will probably, between Christmas and New Year's, sneak in at least getting those on the needles so they don't go back into the mix. Now, let's see, I'm getting distracted because I'm seeing messages on my phone again. Now, the next thing that will happen is, so those items not started will come right off the queue. And then I make sure I have everything fully entered. Everything should be there in Ravelry, and I'll export that. You can export your list of yarns in Ravelry as a spreadsheet. So I export that spreadsheet and I assign numbers to all the yarns there. I'll get all my little wooden chips that have numbers on them, and I'll verify that I have, I'll sort them out and verify I have all the numbers. And then for however many yarns there are, I'll put that many chips into the chip bucket and mix that up. And I also add a chip I have 2 extra chips in there. One is for the oldest yarn in my stash, and one is for the newest yarn in my stash. So those each have an extra chance of being picked. So I'll basically reset that whole thing, and on January 1st, I'll have my husband pick, or maybe I'll have him do the pick on the 29th at the end of do a couple of picks so we can start off right away at the beginning of the year, put it in the next episode. We'll see. But whatever the case, I'll reboot that spreadsheet, and he will pick out some numbers, and we'll start fresh with what begins in January of 2024. So that'll be fun. And I think that's basically it. Other than that, I'm going to try to keep on this 2-week schedule to try to keep these a little shorter and more consistent and everything. And I've got some videos I still need to post of my stash, and I want to try to get up the rest of my stash before I get a couple weeks into January. Get my I need to do the DK and then all the heavier yarns, and get those all up for the stash tours as well, and have that completely finished. And I'll pick back up on my sock retrospective again once that's done. And things should be a little less busy in January. So yeah, otherwise, I hope next time I see you, it'll be after Christmas. And so I hope everyone has a great holiday season, and you've got plenty of knit-worthy folks, or you yourself, of course, are always knit-worthy, and you can knit some wonderful things for yourself. And I hope you have some really good company to enjoy during the holidays and everything, and enjoy your knits.